Thank you. Thank you so much, Speaker Pelosi, for your steadfast commitment to protecting immigrant youth and families. That commitment is exemplified by the fact that this is the first time that a DREAM Act will be passed by a Chamber of Congress as a top Democratic priority. Thank you also to my Democratic leadership, the other members of the leadership, as well as Congresswoman Jerry Nadler, Zoe Lofgren, and Congresswoman Jayapal, and all my colleagues for their support of the Dream and Promise Act. And I also want to thank the advocates who have tirelessly represented their communities as we drafted this bill. When I first introduced the DREAM Act back in 2001, then it was known as the Student Adjustment Act, not exactly a catchy phrase like the DREAM Act. I really thought when I learned about the Dreamers, I learned about their plight, and I met with many of them and heard their hopes and their aspirations for their future and what they wanted to do, not only for themselves and their families, but how they wanted to contribute back to their communities. And at the same time, as part of their story, hear the veil of fear and terror that they were living under, because at any moment, they didn't know if they would be deported and sent to a country that most never knew, never even spoke the language of. And here we are, 18 years later, and it definitely was not a no-brainer. Unfortunately, it has taken all this time to get to this point where today we will say in one voice, that is House Democrats, that 2.5 million Dreamers, TPS, and DED recipients truly belong in America and should be allowed to continue contributing to our nation's success with an opportunity for citizenship, because they are American in every way. As I said earlier, today's victory would not have been possible without so many Dreamers, TPS, and DED recipients sharing their stories to members of Congress, to their neighbors, and to the country at large. And I would just like to highlight the stories of just a couple of Dreamers and their hopes and their aspirations, and what will be lost if this DREAM Act does not eventually become law. There are Dreamers like Kenya, who hopes to become a registered nurse serving her community and saving lives. Miriam, a political science student who hopes to be mayor one day and lead her community and neighbors to a brighter future. Jessica, who dreams of earning her PhD in sociology and eventually becoming a professor. I also, my colleague, Mike Thompson, also just reminded me that what California has to lose. Today we have a shortage of 7,000 teachers, and currently 5,000 of the teachers who are in our schools teaching our children, 5,000 are DACA recipients. So these stories and the stories of those who are here today is just a small sample of the millions of Dreamers whose stories exemplify our American values, talents, and desires to serve their communities and neighborhoods and the country they only know as home. So it is no wonder that this bill is supported by a cross group of organizations, whether it's from labor to the Chamber of Commerce to health professionals, educators. Everyone, this is a large coalition because they understand that passage of this bill is not only the right thing to do because of Dreamers, themselves, but it is the right thing to do because of the value that they bring to our country. So today's strong vote, I know, will be a major milestone in our fight to protect our dreamers, but the fact is that this is just a first step. And my greatest hope is that the Senate will recognize the value that dreamers, TPS, and DED recipients bring to this country, put partisan politics aside, and support the DREAM Act, and that the president will see the true light and merit of these young people and TPS and DED recipients and sign the bill into law. And now it is my pleasure to introduce CHC Chairman Joaquin Castro for remarks.